Okay, hi everybody. A lot of you have seen me around at registration. I work for CFI, and one thing I do is generalist career advising. So when people apply for our advising service, these days it's usually me who's the first person they talk to if they are accepted. And this position actually makes giving this talk harder, since it would be nice to kind of like rattle off some, okay, these are the common mistakes, but like even during the time, I haven't been doing this too long, since this advising project is relatively recent, and I've started like doing it relatively recently, but I've already seen that there's like a huge variety of backgrounds people are coming from, and like it's very hard to give sort of like general advice in the sense that like one size fits all, because one person's mistake is another's best move. So that's kind of to sort of like caveat the whole talk I'm about to give you. But I think we can identify some core mistakes. So again, of course, it depends a little on your perspective whether these are mistakes or not, but I'm kind of assuming a Christian perspective here, a Christian altruistic perspective to careers. And the first mistake from that perspective would be not considering how you can serve others with your career. So a very common approach in our culture is kind of like look at career as a form of like self-fulfillment. Like, what do you enjoy? What are you passionate about? This cliche. Those of you who are familiar with the EA movement have probably already heard EA's like arguing very much against this framing of what you're passionate about, maybe for somewhat different reasons, but I think there's really a point to it, like because if we look at the Bible, there's the parable of the talents, where you're given a talent and you're supposed to make good use of it, and the Lord's going to ask you one day, how well did you use your talent? And our talent is, whatever we have that we can use for the benefit of His kingdom, for the benefit of our neighbors, for the benefit of the least of these, as Jesus says. So our career is definitely part of our talent, our time, our skills, all that. So it would seem quite weird to be using this only as a form of self-fulfillment. Of course, God cares about our welfare as well, but like we are living in an age, most of us who are in this conference are living in an affluent country, in an age where we have a lot of opportunities to help people who are much, much worse off than we are. Very impactful opportunities. So it would definitely seem like a big mistake not to even consider this when you're thinking about your career, right? So this, I would say, is sort of like the core mistake that CFI wants to tackle. We want to make people think about how can I do the most good to others with my career. Of course, again, I need to caveat, like all careers usually, most legal careers do serve people in some way, like you're usually contributing something useful to society if you're doing something that somebody's willing to pay you for. I mean, of course, there might be things that are like clearly immoral, I'm not talking about that, but like, usually you're contributing. But I would think if you have the means, if you're here, like in this conference, that likely means you're a person who could do a lot of good to others, and I would definitely encourage you to take this as a primary, like among the top considerations in your career. But there is another related core mistake, which is ignoring your personal fit. Because sometimes people get a bit carried away with the altruism part, in the sense that like they are thinking only about how they can serve others and not thinking about it smartly. What I mean is they burn themselves out, or they try to do something where they're actually not very suited for. And there may be a situation where you have to do it, like something like this. Let's say your spouse falls very ill and you have to take care of them. It might not be a good personal fit for you, but you just have to do it. It might be like too much, but sometimes you just have to do something like that. But generally speaking, if you're in the position where you're choosing your career, don't choose something that will burn you out in like 2 years. It's not impactful. That's not like, you're not serving well, you're not using your talent well if you do that. Because like, if you're burnt out, then you really can't do anything at that point. You'll just have to like recover and reorient and all that. So that is also something, and this is an advice to people who are like very into serving. But I think it's very good to say it out loud here, because I would imagine the audience in this conference is like pre-selected to have a lot of those kinds of persons here. Okay. And then a third core mistake, I would say, is like not really thinking about how to serve others well. And this is a little harder to unpack, but basically what I mean is like many people have this kind of like gut feeling like, okay, I want to do something good. Okay, so what is a good thing? And the first thing they can think about is like a soup kitchen. I'll go and work in a soup kitchen. And there's nothing wrong with working in a soup kitchen. It can be a wonderful way to serve and connect with people. But the thing is, the problem is not the soup kitchen, but the fact that you didn't really consider any other options. You know, like you just went with the first thing that came into your mind. You went with your gut feeling. And your gut is an important source of information, but you also have a brain. You should use both, you know. like there's a reason why we have like God gave us heads, you know, like we should be using them. So like if you have a bad gut feeling about something, that can be valuable information that there's something like it might not be a good fit for you or something like that. But you know, but that's still like only one consideration, and our guts can be wrong, especially with things we have no experience with. And selecting a career is usually something we don't do that many times over our lives, so it's often like unfamiliar territory. So how could your gut really know about that? Like, there may be some things, yes, but like, don't just go with that. Don't just go with that. Also, like, think about it carefully and pray about it, you know, ask God. And that can be, prayer can also be a time when you sort of like find new things inside yourself, like, actually, you know, I didn't think about this way before. It might open new perspectives to you. So these are sort of like three kind of like what I would call core mistakes from the point of like using your talent well. Thank you.
Any questions? We've got time for like one or maybe two. Okay, cool.
Okay,
Thank you, Vesa.
great. Thank you, everyone. Yep.